Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. Friday tournament action. We've got Tulsa and UCLA. UCLA fresh off of their Pac-12 Conference Tournament Championship. That was here in Las Vegas at the MGM. I was actually at the MGM on Saturday when that game was going on. First half of that game, UCLA could not miss. I mean, they came out red hot shooting. Everything that went up was going in. It looked like they were shooting the ball in the ocean. The bucket was that big for them. And unfortunately, I was on Arizona. That's why it maybe looked as bad as it did in the first half. But late in the first half, Arizona did make some adjustments, slowed UCLA down a little bit, and then it was a battle the whole second half. And I'll give UCLA credit. I think the second half went more to the style that Arizona wanted, and UCLA was able to still hang on and win the game.
Well, we know offensively UCLA, one of the best in the country, better than 81 points a game. Defensively, they need Travis and David Ware to step up in the paint because they're very soft inside the paint. We saw Alan Williams for Santa Barbara dominate them at Pauley Pavilion earlier in the season. But UCLA now collectively playing much better, and they have just tons of scoring. So if they can get you into an up-and-down game, you're in a lot of trouble. I don't care if you're Arizona. I don't care who you are. They'll run with anybody.
You know, Steve Alford, obviously we've seen him here in the Mountain West with, New Mexico over the last few years and that. He's totally changed this program in 1 year. I mean, you look back to UCLA, the Ben Howland era where it was like tick tock, watch paint dry. I mean, I had to watch it, in Pittsburgh, which he turned the program around in Pittsburgh. We got to give him credit for that. The guy won everywhere he went, but it's not nice. It's not fun basketball to watch because everything is on the defensive end. It's like they forget the offense. That you got to score. You can't win games 2-0. You got to score. And this team totally in 1 year, and you always hear it. And we talk about, and again, this goes back to what we've said about with the turnover. He got Ben Howland's recruits, that were there, but they've got so many impact players that come in for 1 year, and he was able to get them to play his style. So you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's a great coach. He did a great job at New Mexico, and I've had the chance to see UCLA in person. And you're right. I mean, that's a dynamic offense. A lot of shooters on that team. Like to play the up and down game. The problem in this matchup is Tulsa, I believe, is 14th in the country defending two-pointers. So they're not going to let UCLA, well, at least the plan is to not let UCLA do what they want to do offensively, which means UCLA has to shoot more three-pointers, and there's a lot more variance anytime you do shoot the three-pointers. And, Tulsa's a team, they back when I lived in Cleveland, Tulsa was a very good team all the time. They were one of those teams, they were one of those, they weren't to the Butler status, but they were one of those teams that were in the tournament all the time, played very good ball, and now I believe that they won 11 straight games.
Right, and you did not want to play them in Tulsa, that's for sure. It was like Gonzaga. And that's why what happened with them is similar to what happens to Gonzaga and a lot of these mid-major teams like Wichita State. No, we're not playing a home-and-home with you guys. And people talk about, well, Wichita State's schedule is soft because nobody will play them. They won't give them that home game in Wichita.
10 of the last 13 opponents that have faced Tulsa's held them under 40% shooting from the floor. So if they can, you're going to have strength versus strength. If Tulsa can slow down this UCLA offense and they can score themselves, this may look like a big number. UCLA, let's say we always talk about looking at teams, you want to, buy low, sell high. Right now, the stock on UCLA is as high as it possibly can be.
Right now, a lot of the talking heads have been talking UCLA is a real sleeper, and they have the talent to be able to win. But I don't like to bet on teams as a favorite coming off of a championship in their conference when they were an underdog. They were not expected to win that conference championship. Arizona's a better team in that conference. So they're coming off of that just last weekend. They're all excited. Who you get to play? You get to play Tulsa. They're reading all the headlines, living in L.A. They've been there before. It wouldn't surprise me if this game goes down to the wire because I think they're going to take them lightly.
That's a great point, though, that you threw in there, and I want to get your thought on it, Ken. The teams that do go all the way in their conference tournament and win the tournament, and if you were expected to do it, not so much, but it still takes something out of you. But if you were a team that wasn't the favorite to do it, now UCLA would have been the co-favorite in that one. It was Arizona and UCLA. But when you do have a team that runs the table, gets in there, now they're not playing They're playing actually tonight in one of the play-in games, but a team like Cal Poly. There was a team that came out of absolutely nowhere, had no shot of making the tournament unless they won their conference tournament, and pulled that off with, 2 big upsets in a row, and then they were actually a slight favorite in the last game, and then they're in. How does that affect a team like that? Do you think they're drained?
What, Cal Poly or?
Any team in general in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Poly as a dog, I mean, they'll have a shot. I still don't understand how a team 13-18 is a 4-point favorite and they keep getting the money against Texas Southern. I don't, who's rating the Big West better than, Texas Southern's conference? I mean, who's making that unless you got some serious inside information? I didn't understand that line movement. But, UCLA played their best 3-game stretch in the tournament, and the Arizona game was tight. But the 2 games against Stanford, blowout Central, and the first game as well against Oregon, second half blowout Central. I mean, offensively, but they got teams that wanted to run with them. And if you run with UCLA, they shoot it better than you from 3-point range, from 2-point range. They're nearly 50% from the floor. They're 49%, and they're 40% from behind the arc. So they don't care if it's 2s or 3s. They know they have more depth. They have 8 players that score probably more than your top 2.
Well, you know what? If you have anything to add before we give those magic words to Ken, because it is his free pick.
Let's do it.
Ken,
right.
Let's make it official.
Let's do it. And the Conference USA, to me, the most underrated conference. I mean, you're talking about a 4-way tie to end the division. And then Texas El Paso, which is where they played on the Conference USA tournament, they were the host. They actually finished a game behind. So you had 5 dynamic teams, I thought. Southern Miss pretty good. I thought Louisiana Tech got screwed. I thought they should have been an NCAA tournament. Everybody talked about SMU. La Tech, when you go to power rankings, they would be favored over 10 other at-large teams. It's absolutely ludicrous. They did half of that without Appleby, their leading scorer, who missed 12 games, and still they held it together and won 19 of their last 22. So I thought La Tech was one of the biggest shafts. But I like this conference, and Tulsa playing their best ball. They lost a close one at La Tech, but this team has won 11 straight, like Bryan said, 12-1 against the number. How about 18-2 against the spread in their last 20, 17-3 straight up in their last 20 overall. They did lose at La Tech, or I'm sorry, at UTEP during the regular season and at La Tech. Those were their last 2 losses, but this team flat out plays defense, like Marco alluded to. Patrick Swilling Jr., you remember his dad, the linebacker, great linebacker for New Orleans, was an integral part of this team. He's been suspended on sexual assault charges, and that's still pending. So he was their 4th leading scorer. He's been out of the lineup now. He's been suspended indefinitely for about 12 games. But still, Danny Manning, yeah, he's got a ring. Remember Danny Manning at Kansas? So now he's got the job there at Tulsa, and he's taken this team big time all the way to the Conference USA Championship, and I think this team's dangerous. You're going to give them 9.5 points. I'm going to take it because they do play great perimeter defense. They hold opponents to 40%. I think Tulsa might even beat UCLA if UCLA is not shooting it well from the outside, because that's what they live and die by. They live and die by those outside shots. Down low, again, the Ware brothers, Travis and David, they better have their A game because they are soft down low. And if Tulsa's able to push them around, no second shot opportunities for the Bruins, and that might not bode well. If this game's in the, say, 74 or less as a winning score, I think Tulsa wins the game outright. If it gets higher than 75, then I think UCLA's got a good chance to win the game. But I'll take the 9.5 points with Tulsa. I think this team's got a lot of depth. Woodard is outstanding. Had 27 in the win over La Tech. Kid's one of the best, and they missed Rashad Smith, their 2nd leading scorer, for a couple games. Once he got back, this team is clicking on all cylinders. Again, 11 straight. How about 20-2 or 18-2 in their last 20 against the number? It's hard to go against numbers like that, especially when you're getting a nice number close to double digits. So I think they hang within double digits with an outside shot to upset the Bruins. Now, the game is in San Diego, so you know half of Pauley Pavilion will make its way down there from Westwood. Half the alum down there in the San Diego area will be there as well. So it'll be like a road game for Tulsa. But, guys, this team's been playing road games and tournament-type games over the last month, because just to get tied for the number 1 seed there in the Conference USA, or tied for first place, they didn't get the 1 seed because of tiebreakers. I mean, they've had to play at a high level against 4 other quality teams that were all jockeying for position within a game.
Great stuff, Ken. He says to take Tulsa plus the points. Can't argue with him on that one. We're going to be back. We got a bonus video for you. We're going to kind of talk about the tournament in general, maybe some teams overrated, underrated, and our thoughts on that, maybe some handicapping tips as well. That's up next, pregame.tv.